Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat?
Covering the New Orleans Saints, Ross Jackson with Locked On Saints, and writes for us right here at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, how are you this afternoon?
Hey, doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here with you.
Absolutely. Ross, want to start at the position that everyone's looking at. So obviously the punter spot. No, I'm totally kidding.
Let's go. I mean, hey, look, I can wax philosophical with some punters, man. Whatever you need.
Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler. Obviously the battle that everyone's watching. The good news is, Ross, I've read your articles, and it seems like a close battle, and for good reason, not bad, right? Like, none of them are going 0 for 12. They both actually look pretty efficient. Like, I know that we have a long way to go. We have an entire offseason. We have the preseason coming up. But right now, like, just prediction time. Season started today. Who takes the first snap?
Yeah, look, I think there's two answers here. Sorry to do this to you.
Oh, you're
good.
But
I do think that there's kind of the, like, who do I perceive to be ahead when it comes to OTAs and training camp and all those other things. You got to remember, not a single 11-on-11, rep seen by media. They didn't run those, all those kinds of things. And so we got to keep that in mind. No pass rush, no throwing lanes, all these other things. But really, when it comes down to who's going to be the starter week one, I think it comes down to who Kellen Moore decides is his guy. And look, when you draft a guy for the first time ever in the franchise's history in the second round, the highest drafted quarterback since Archie Manning in terms of the NFL draft proper as opposed to supplemental draft, I think there's no reason to not roll with the guy that you have decided is your guy unless he ends up being that far behind the curve. And it doesn't feel like Tyler Shuck is that far behind the curve. I think if I was picking a quarterback right now, I'd pick Spencer Rattler because I'll take the guy with the NFL experience. And to be honest, he's looked a little bit more clean in terms of processing, getting through reads through his progression, making good decisions, making quick decisions, all of those things. But, I mean, I don't see a reason why Kellen Moore wouldn't want to go with the guy that he designated effectively as his guy by selecting him in the second round, top 40 overall, with Tyler Shuck. And I don't know that the division, by the time that training camp is over, is going to be so steep that would be a bad decision. You know what I mean? The Saints are in a really good place here with two solid young quarterbacks. And so if I'm predicting, though, like where the Saints will go and who they will choose, I still feel like Tyler Shuck is very much in line.
As far as bringing in guys to be in your offense, Ross, the Saints have brought in a lot of running backs. Like, you went from having none to having, like, a crowded room right now. Obviously, AK's RB1, we know that. But, like, as far as behind him, like, what's the pecking order kind of looking like? Because you got a lot of bodies.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is one of the places where you also see a very wide-open competition. You've got Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck very realistically vying for a starting job. And I think that guys like Kendre Miller, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, rookie Devin Neal, Marcus Yarns, like Bayless Jones Jr. there. I just went ahead and named everybody. But, all those guys that are behind Alvin Kamara, they all have a real opportunity to be the guy behind Alvin Kamara. And that player that's going to be that sort of RB2, if you will, is going to have to be called upon quite a bit because we don't know when Taysom Hill's going to be ready for this team. And so with that taken into consideration, we got to remember Taysom Hill has been the second leading rusher on this team since Latavius Murray in 2020. Yeah, in 2020. And so they've got to find who that next guy is that's going to be able to produce alongside Alvin Kamara in that running back room. I think Kendre Miller has the talent to do it. He has the versatility to be able to do it as well. But I understand very much the appeal of a Devin Neal as a game breaker, Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a versatile chess piece. Same thing for Bayless Jones. I see the appeal of a Cam Akers that could be a between the tackles runner and do a little bit of everything. And so I kind of put sort of maybe the bigger bodied guys like Kendre Miller and Cam Akers that could be more inside the tackle stumpers. I feel like those guys maybe have a little bit of an edge. So those are the ones that I'll be watching most closely. But I think, honestly, when it comes to Kellen Moore, it's not an archetype of saying, here's the role, try to squeeze the player into that role. It's going to be all about who's the best option and how do you make a game plan work for that best option.
Ross Jackson, our guest right now with Locked On Saints and LouisianaSports.net. Ross, before we move to defense, let's stick with the offense here a little bit longer. I want to look at the tight end room. You know, it's a room that a lot of people aren't talking about. You were wondering how heavily the Saints are going to invest in it in the offseason, but they give Juwan Johnson a contract. You still have Foster Moreau in that room. Like, where does the rotation look like right now?
Yeah, I think Foster Moreau as well as Juwan Johnson are going to be the top options in the room. We'll see. I thought it was great. We've seen Foster Moreau out there. He was out during OTAs and mini camps. He wasn't participating, but he was there with the team and working with the position group in other capacities. He was just at tight end U as well out in Nashville, working with Travis Kelce and Greg Olson and Dallas Goedert and all these other guys that are out there. George Kittle as well. And so I think he seems to be trending towards potentially being available for training camp, which would be great for New Orleans. But we'll see, right? He had that kind of major knee injury late in the season, or a lower body injury late in the season last game. So we'll see. But I think him and Juwan Johnson are the top two guys in that room. And then I think Jack Stahl grabs a really important role too. He was in Kellen Moore and TJ Paganetti's run-heavy offense last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a fantastic blocker, 4.6 speed. He can do some damage after the catch as well. I think he's got some underrated kind of value in the pass catching area. And so I see those three guys as kind of at the top of the position. And then you're wondering, who will be kind of either that top practice squad option, or if they keep a fourth guy on the roster because they don't have any fullbacks on the roster, where guys like Dallin Holker or Trayton Welsh or Michael Jacobson or Maliki Mataval end up kind of plugging in while they wait to see when they get Taysom Hill back out on the field.
Like, obviously, you have a lot of options, right? Like you just mentioned, look, Foster's the veteran. Juwan Johnson's a converted receiver. Stahl's more of the blocker. So, like, how do you think they're going to use the tight end in this offense? Like, is it like a split out wide? Is it more of a traditional tight end? Like, we've seen Kellen Moore be able to run pretty much any offense he wants, but, like, what's it going to look like in New Orleans?
Yeah, I think the Dalton Schultz, kind of Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, kind of mobile mold of like what we would call, I don't really like that. I would say like F move is usually kind of the phrase with like the versatile tight end, but I don't know how much you're going to see Juwan Johnson line up in the backfield. You know what I mean? But I think a guy that lines up in line, in the slot and out wide, that kind of role is perfectly suited for Juwan Johnson, who, as you mentioned, is a converted wide receiver. And, of course, was one of the bigger investments that the New Orleans Saints made this offseason in re-signing him. So you might as well get him out on the field, right? And then Foster Moreau is a bit more do-it-all. You could have him on the field any down in any game situation as a blocker, as a route runner. He could be a good, tough guy over the middle of the field for you, which is great for these young quarterbacks. Jake Stahl kind of factors into that as well. And so I would probably see those molds kind of being where you would see these guys most utilized, like Foster and Jake Stahl kind of being more of the traditional inline Y tight end, while you have a guy with Juwan Johnson who could be a little bit more of a chess piece joker type of tight end that you can move kind of all over the formation.
Let's flip to the defense here real quick, Ross. Look, obviously, you're going to overhaul it. This was a defense that wasn't very good a year ago. You bring in Brandon Staley. If I ask you biggest area of concern during the offseason on the defense, what would that be?
Yeah, defensive line, right? I mean, that's got to be the top thing. The Saints, for the second year in a row in a 17-game season, were not able to eclipse the 40-sack mark, which is something they eclipsed every year from 2017 on up until they hit that sort of dry spell over the last couple of years. And so I think that's a part of it. You also saw the Saints 31st in the run game in terms of run defense last year as well. And you see a lot of that coming before contact. We talk about before contact. What we mean is getting moved by the offensive line in such a way that running backs are picking up 3-4 yards before the defenders are making contact with them, right? The congestion of the defensive line wasn't having that much of an impact. And some of that was game planning, some of that was coaching, some of that can be player related. It's not all on any one person's shoulders or one area's shoulders, but I think you're expecting that to get better this year. You've got returning players, you've got new players, you've got new faces, you've got great defensive line coach in Bo Davis, a focused edge rushers coach in Jay Rogers, which I think is really a nice thing because you can specify your communication and coaching to that position. And, of course, Brandon Staley brings not just a new level of coaching, a new philosophy, but also a new defensive scheme as a whole that could potentially help them out too. So you're looking for a lot more one-on-ones this year with 5 down linemen. You're looking at a more aggressive pass rush, a more aggressive matchup being played in terms of pressure in the run game and everything like that too. So there's a lot of positives in terms of where the potential is for that defensive line, where there was the most concern over the course of the offseason. I still think there's going to be a lot of action at those positions when it comes to the 2026 offseason. So I don't think that the work is done here in 2025. But I think that was my biggest concern walking in, and probably still my biggest concern right now before they head into training camp.
All right, Ross, well, before we get you out of here, let's end it on a positive note. We were talking about the biggest area of concern on the defense. Is there a spot on that side of the ball that stood out to you in a positive way?
I really like the secondary.
Okay.
And I don't mean to leave like the linebackers out of the conversation or anything like that. Like you're going to feel good when Mario Davis is on the field, right? Like that's kind of a given. But I actually, where you lost Marshawn Lattimore or traded away Marshawn Lattimore last year and then lost Paul Sadibo over the course of the offseason, there was a lot of opportunity to walk into 2025 and feel like, oh man, that position group, the secondary as a whole, corners and safeties, really took a big hit. But honestly, Kool-Aid McKinstry has looked fantastic. Isaac Yiadom led the NFL 2 years ago in New Orleans in 2023 enforcing completion percentage for all corners that had at least 300 snaps in coverage. So you have really good veteran play there and somebody that's very familiar, having spent 2 other stints with Brandon Staley, including last year in San Francisco. Alontae Taylor getting back to the slot and getting back to being able to be the disruptor that he's so good at being in that star/slot nickel role. And then I really like the safety addition of Justin Fields. Justin Reed, excuse me. And so I thought maybe Will Harris was a pretty big loss for them over the course of the offseason. But getting Justin Reed in the building and getting another championship-minded safety, I think, is fantastic next to Tyrann Mathieu. And a lot of young players in there, too, investing there with Jonas Sanker and Quincy Riley in the draft. Jordan Howden coming back for his 3rd year. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening there that maybe doesn't have, like, the top-end established NFL talent names, but has a lot of potential in its youth.
Ross Jackson, you can catch him at Locked On Saints and writes articles for us here at LouisianaSports.net. Ross, thanks for the time today.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you having me on. You take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.